Welcome to the podcast, John and Mary Kate Walker. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I've been a fan of what you guys have created and built in Safety Harbor for quite some time. And so I'm excited.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about let's start there. And like, what have you guys built? What is the Tides?
The Tide Seafood Market and Provisions is a specialty market and an eatery. We've been open for about 2.5 years, and we focus, I think one of our biggest, proudest moments, or I guess our ethos, is that we try to source as locally as possible. Right now, we have about 35 to 40 single vendors that are from in and around Tampa Bay and Florida. And that's just really important to us.
They're mom and pops. They're, mom and pops that are trying to live out their dream and sell their wares wherever they can. And so we just really want to support that and celebrate the different, I say it all the time.
We do. We see it all the
The
time.
farmers, the fishermen, the ranchers, the artisans, the bakers, the makers in and around the area. There's so many of them that are doing so many things well. We want to celebrate that. And so what we've built is a market and an eatery around that. And we try to cross-utilize everything in the market into the restaurant. So we promote the market in the restaurant and the restaurant into the market. So we want both of them to kind of work together. And, it allows us to sell and prepare foods that we want to take home and eat ourselves. And so I think we're pretty proud of the fact that we've been able to figure out how to make this thing work. We were asked the same question by Helen
from the Tampa Bay Times. She was like, how have you guys been able to kind of pull off that, sounds like a cliche at this point, that farm to table.
Yeah. Right.
But that's kind of what it is. And, John said it's the cross utilization. And that's, we work with 5 to 6 different farms, and we've learned over the past 2.5 years. So we look at, their wholesale list, and then we kind of plan our menu accordingly and kind of work that way. So
we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. We would see beautiful produce, and that would be great to have it in the market, and we would bring it in, and it wouldn't sell. And so then we were feeding a lot of chickens and a lot of,
we were.
We had produce.
Yeah. Oh my
we had
gosh.
an employee that had a pet pig, and so we were feeding the pig, and we were chasing our tail trying to save things that weren't selling in the market. And
so it was a shift. We became proactive versus reactive.
And that's when we started to cook, because you got to remember, we only opened as a market.
That's when I first walked in, was
Yeah.
it was just the market.
Yeah.
We didn't do any food. And
Well, we did prepared foods.
we did
but
prepared food, but there wasn't any made to order.
Absolutely.
And we slowly worked into the made to order. And then it was one of these things where I was running around saying, that bok choy's only got, another day or two in the market, and it needs to be cooked and eaten. And what are we going to do with it? And so we fed a lot of chickens and pigs, and then we kind of turned it around and said, well, let's look at what's available, and let's, like Mary Kate said, and let's plan a special around it, and let's find a way to show people what can be done with it, and have some in the market and some in the eatery. And it's really been a great symbiotic relationship.
It has.
Because the other thing that we got early on was some advice from a local restaurateur who
said, I think that what you guys need to do is be the best restaurant in Safety Harbor. Like, that's our advice. And we were like, okay, we're coachable. And it's something that John and I, at this point, are also really proud of, because we will pivot, adapt, evolve, like whatever it takes. We're not,
we're not locked into thinking that we've got the right answer or the best answer, And so if somebody, this guy owns, he owns a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, he's
And
experienced.
he's really experienced. And that was the thing. He was like, look, you guys have curated a great place, but you can't take curation to the bank. You're doing some, we were doing some counter service at that point. And he said, you really need to focus on the restaurant and really build that, because, at the end of the day, we are a business. We need to make money. And he said, that's where the margin is. And he's right. He said, the other thing is he said, stack out the produce, stack out all that stuff. Everybody sees the quality of the fish that you have and the quality of the meat. It's all there on display. Everybody can see that. He said, but what you ought to do is you ought to have your chefs come out of the kitchen when they need lemons or peppers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So have people see that they're actually taking that stuff back into the kitchen and make that, more of your differentiator. I said that right?
You did.
Nice.
So, that was his advice. And so, we see this beautiful Romanesco that's at Little Pond Farm. We talk to our chef de cuisine and say, what do you think? What can we make? And then we have a vegetable special that weekend where we sell it through the restaurant, but then it also attracts attention into the market because people say, wow, that looks great. It's on our social. And so now people are starting to get those vegetables and take them home and experiment with them.
Yeah.
So it's all about cross-utilization. Everything that is in our shop is used in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another restaurant business that does that in our area.
We even, we have a small batch producer of Worcestershire sauce.
Okay.
Worcestershire sauce.
Is that right?
That's
I did,
a good one. That's a hard one.
I know it is, isn't it? Out of Wisconsin. And we actually use that Worcestershire sauce in our recipes.
It's Colonel Pabst Worcestershire. It's
so
made
good.
in Milwaukee, and it's phenomenal. It's viscous. It's small batch. It's everything that you want the other big brands to be that they aren't. And so they sell it in a food service size. So we use that in the kitchen as well. We've just struck a deal with 15 Olives, which is a Florida olive oil company.
Okay.
And they'll be supplying olive oil for us in the kitchen and then retail bottles as well out front. So
Cool.
we're trying to go seed oil free as well. So that's kind of another step in that direction.
It's a big step. So, see, you pull our string.
Yeah,
And we'll just
We'll
keep
be here
going.
all
day.
Yeah, because there are so many different facets of our business. Like
Um,
we've jokingly said, the restaurant industry is notoriously difficult. But we've laughed between us that if we only had a restaurant, like how easy that would be. I know, which is crazy.
Asinine to think.
Absolutely. But we do. We have so many different elements that we, kind of have to constantly manage.
Yeah.
The influx of the proteins and,
The produce is just one part of it.
Yeah.
We
Right.
butcher a half a hog every other week,
Wow.
and so there's, what do you do with the feet and the tail and the ears? And
Yeah.
you have to find solutions for all of the trim and that sort of thing. And so
it's also been interesting because we kind of have a strong ethos, I guess. Like the way to honor an animal is to be able to use all of it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we like using local producers, there's a multitude of reasons. One, because the product doesn't have to travel as far, but also when you're a smaller producer, you're usually in it because you're passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sometimes ethos can get in the way of business. We're really trying to
It's a
strike
balance,
that.
right?
It is a
Yeah.
balance. It is a balance. We've had to, kind of work through that as well. So
Well, we don't subscribe to any industrialized farming methods wherever we can get away from it. We're always going to need lemons. We're always going to need asparagus and potatoes. Those are things that we'll always have to have sort of, I say conventionally, loosely, but
Yeah. Right.
we try to source those from Florida as well. But yeah, we don't subscribe to any of the industrial meat programs or anything like that. So we want it as local as possible. And it translates into a better product because those farmers are so passionate that the animals are happier, they live a healthier, more fulfilled life, and it equates to a better product on the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Let's go back to the beginning.
yes.
And where did this idea come from? And how did you guys get into this?
Okay. So
It was all
this
her idea.
First restaurant too, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it was 2020. Do you mind if I
No, spill the beans.
This is part of the thing. So
we don't know how to be anything but honest.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
you're
just
going to get
gonna
it all.
apologize
the only
in
way to
advance.
be,
Yeah.
The only thing
yep.
we won't do is cuss today.
I won't cuss. I promise.
We
You
talked
can do
about
that too. That's fine.
Okay, good, because
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
So it was 2020. We, before this, John ran major seafood distribution centers, and I was a stay-at-home mom. We have 3 boys. We lived in Birmingham, Alabama for 10 years. where all of our children were born. And then John took a position with a company down here in Florida, moved us to
Very
Florida,
large broadliner that spared no expense to move us down
moved us
here.
down here to Florida.
And I was charged with, they had just bought a seafood company in St. Pete, and I was charged with transitioning that company into this larger company philosophy, culture,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
It
And I was there
was-
for 3.5 years,
Yeah,
and
it was
miserable.
He was miserable.
Yeah.
He was on heart medication,
Jeez.
super stressful. He wasn't home very often.
I was working 6.5 days a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Long
He
days,
was
yeah.
pretty miserable.
Yeah, it was, I mean, my day started at 6:15 in the morning, and I wasn't getting home until after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And,
You
I
gotta
was
remember,
missing,
we're in a brand new, city and a brand
Location,
new
yeah,
state
yeah.
too. So
I had
we don't have
100
family down here. So I'm like kind of all by myself.
What am I doing?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and I had 180 employees that were all kind of doing their
Wow,
own thing and just
wow.
trying to.
So we get to 2020, and John was
Part of a reorganization.
part of a reorganization where they wrote a check and they're like, you haven't done anything wrong, but be on your way.
Wow.
Which is
January 29th of 2020.
Yeah. So we were like, oh my God. Because that's quite the upset when he was the sole,
Yeah, right.
income earner. So he spent
And you
several
have to
weeks.
think too that what I was doing was not something that is on every street corner. I
Right.
mean, there's only so many of these companies throughout the state and really the country.
And you're
that-
just relocated here too, right?
Yeah,
So,
and we'd been
Yeah.
here, less than 4 years at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So he had kind of arranged some things. Details are not important at this point, but he was like, okay, I can do this and I can do this, and
Yeah.
we're going to be all right
Yeah.
for at least for now. And
Yeah.
then the following week, the entire world shut down.
Yeah.
And so these companies who were going to bring him on were
I was
like,
importing fish. I had fish in the air. I had things.
Oh,
things
yeah,
wow.
and they were
working,
like, yeah, no. So we went from never seeing him to us all being home together. So the kids are out of school. He's home. We're super stressed.
Yeah.
Oh, it was quite the testament.
Yeah.
In all of that trial and tribulation, like so many other people, right? We're not special. So many families certainly felt that pinch.
It was sort of the great reset of 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
You know?
that.
And all the while he's, kind of interviewing with seafood distribution centers around the country.
Well, there was one in Hawaii. There was one in Maine, New
Nevada,
York, New Jersey, Nevada,
Indiana.
Phoenix. Like not little moves.
So you're trying to get back into the same field.
Absolutely.
So we were
Right.
trying, yeah. So that's all we knew at that point
Yeah.
was let's get back into the corporate world and let's,
really
it's
did.
great salaries and bonuses and benefits and things like that. And let's,
But it was more of the same. It meant that we would have to move yet again.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize I was going to love Florida as much as I do.
Mm.
I love Florida. I really, really do. It's wild and crazy down here, but like this is home. I love it.
Did you guys grow up in Alabama, both of you, or? where you were-
I grew up in Georgia. He grew up in
I was
Florida.
born in Miami, grew up in West Palm. So moving here,
Oh,
when we
wow.
had the opportunity to relocate here, we weren't really looking to do anything. But when the opportunity came up, I said, wouldn't it be great to raise our kids in Florida
Yeah,
on the
that's
water?
really cool.
And
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
be great. My parents are still in West Palm. So
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it was during that time that we kind of posed to each other the question of like, do we go into business for ourselves? We had always talked about it. John and I have been married for 21 years. We've always talked
we
about
tried to buy a restaurant 15 years ago.
in the early years, and that didn't work out, and that's just fine. But we'd always talked about, having our own business. And
Okay.
so we were at that point where it was like, okay, we're either going to do this or we're not, and we're never going to talk about it again.
Yeah.
Because this is really like,
That
what
was-
do we have to lose at this
Right.
point, right?
Well,
We
and that
kind of
was
lost
now-
everything.
Now's the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had
And-
lost all the security, all the safety.
Yeah.
How do we phrase it? The golden handcuffs,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Had been removed. And that was the thing is that whenever it got tough, and I had those really bad days or a series of bad days, I'd come home and be like, man, I wish we could just do something for ourselves. Like if I'm going to work like this,
Yeah.
I want it to be for us, you
Yeah.
know, and I want to do it with you, you know, and do it for the boys.
And I'm like, well, who's going to pay for our health insurance? We have 3 children. Who's paying the mortgage? You know?
Yeah.
He's like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no. And it wasn't until all of that was kind of stripped away that we truly were like, all right, let's do something. He found a job managing a liquor distillery. He's also 10 years sober. So, I mean, like the
That's going
willingness.
into,
Oh
it's
my
like the
God.
line in the den, but it was June of
Mm.
2020 and I've been out of work for,
You
Several
need
months,
something.
and we were
Yeah.
all
I
ready to
was
kill each
like,
other.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And
you know,
Not
benefits
the
are great
best
on
time to go back to work at a liquor
Right.
yeah,
distillery.
exactly.
Yeah.
But he was, I mean,
I joke that gin day was the worst when we were
Yeah.
bottling gin because the whole place
Gin was
just
his favorite.
That was one of my favorites.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it was,
yeah.
it was,
But it's a
my
testament
hands are
to
sweating
like
right
what he was willing to do for our
Yeah.
family, right? So, but obviously, like managing the distillery as that, you know, a recovered alcoholic was not the long term. And
we were there
Amy's husband Byron gifted us with, he was like, hey, listen, you guys need some, it's been stressful, we're going to take the kids, you guys just have kind of like, you know, a date night or something along those lines. And it was
take the afternoon. We got the kids. Don't worry about anything.
yeah,
That's
'cause it was
amazing.
stressful.
Go do.
And so that was when I had the idea. I'm like, why don't we open a seafood market?
It's COVID proof.
Yeah,
It's essential.
it's
Yeah.
an essential business.
True.
That was really kind of the thinking.
Yeah.
And we have always prioritized, I think we alluded to that earlier, but we've always prioritized like farmers markets and having relationships with these people. So it just made sense. I mean, we were always going to the St. Pete Saturday morning market.
Okay.
You know, John
We had
Roberts.
We had ferment subscriptions with St. Pete Ferments. We were buying chickens and pork from John Roberts at Oliver Heritage Farms.
So it made
We were
sense.
eating Providence Cattle Company beef anyways.
Yeah.
So, and then all of the fish, you know, I was going to different places up and down the beach to get fish for us. So it just kind of made sense to have everybody come to us
Yeah.
and open a place.
And that's kind of, so that was kind of the, if you will. I mean, it wasn't so much an as it was okay, we should do this. And so
Yeah.
I was tasked with writing a business plan. I've never written a business plan
Yeah.
in my entire life.
We've learned
Stay
a
at
lot.
home mom.
Oh
yeah.
my
Yeah.
gosh, we have.
Let's
it
jump
has
right
been-
in.
absolutely, like
Perfect.
you know, just like this. Let's go. And it was just kind of meant to be. And I don't want to make it sound like it wasn't filled with trials and it wasn't difficult, because it was. Every single step of this journey has been it has tested us, but we have persevered. And so it's like, we know that this is what we were supposed to do. It's kind of like
Our highest destiny.
our highest destiny,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's what led to the Tide Seafood Market and Provisions.
Yeah.
So we were open 6 weeks, and Made in Tampa Bay, Fox 13 came in and did a piece on us. And we had been doing po' boys and blackened grouper sandwiches from like 11 to 1. I mean, it was a very short window
Yeah.
that we were doing a little made to order stuff. And they came in and did a spot on us and oyster po' boys. And then the day after it aired, we did in a day what we would normally do in a week.
Wow.
And
this
old
this
little
fella,
man,
yeah,
he pulled
he's-
Mary Kate aside and said, y'all gonna need some more tables.
And so we just kind of slowly. Have you been in lately?
It's been probably maybe a couple of months.
Okay, so you've been in since we've gone to.
And actually, I've never.
You haven't.
Both times I've eaten there, we sat outside
Okay.
because we like sitting outside.
Yeah, and it's lovely. It's Main Street, so
Yeah.
but still full table service. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an
Okay. Yeah.
evolution in and of itself. 'Cause
Yeah.
it
We've
was,
only been doing that a year.
yeah.
So
table
we were,
service.
Crazy.
counter service. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nuts how far we've come.
Crazy. So you could. I mean, I remember like seeing the building and
Mhm.
and just being like, "Oh, that place is different." Like that just caught my eye. Like
Yeah.
that it's different than anything you see. How did you guys come up with the name, the branding, like all? Where does that come from?
We had so many consultants, and we had so many. We had none of that.
No.
We had nothing. No. Actually, the name came from I was seeing a counselor after I lost my job.
Yeah.
A life coach,
just a
yeah,
life
yeah.
coach, just to kind of make sure that I had my head on straight,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure that I was reading the right books and, putting the energy in the right places and, manifesting the right things.
Yeah.
And we just kind of talked it through one day. Hey, I'm thinking about this idea. And she was like, well, what would you call it? And I was like, I don't know. And so we talked for an hour about it. And I came home and I was like, what about the tides? It's kind of a nod to Birmingham,
Roll Tide.
But it's also seafood.
Where my wife is a Gator, so
Is she?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Do they still have a football team? I shouldn't say that.
My dad is a huge. He grew up in Mississippi, so he's a huge Alabama fan.
Okay.
So it's
Yes,
like, yeah,
yes.
I get it.
I mean, we
I
were
get
there
it.
When
for
you
2
live
years.
there,
It's
you
insane.
Well,
have
think
to-
your time is changing now. Saving's
Absolutely,
done.
100%,
So like,
100%.
It
I'm
is.
hoping like you
It
guys.
is.
I don't
you
know
got
if
some
we'll still have
opportunity.
a football team after this year, so
We'll see.
But the name's kind of a nod to Alabama and
Obviously seafood. I
and
mean, it's
seafood.
one of those synchronicities. Like it just worked.
Yeah. Right.
Like it just worked. And
Yeah.
then as far as logos go, it was Fiverr. I'm not even
Yeah.
kidding you. So I'm working with someone in like the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it like totally worked. So if you notice, it's essentially it's the moon and 3 waves. So the moon
Oh, okay,
affects
okay,
the
okay.
tides and the 3 waves are our 3 boys
Okay.
without
Cool.
it being like so blatantly.
Yeah,
Like
we're
these
not
are
like
3
nautical
boys, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, crab
Because I
traps
mean,
and
Yeah.
buoys.
I don't do the seafood kitsch or quiche or however you say
Stuff.
that. The stuff, yeah.
Yes.
I'm like blue, and that's about it.
And then she designed the building.
Cool.
She
That was a
designed
disaster.
all the finishes.
Yeah. What was it before?
It was the post office. It was
was
the
a
post office for
disaster.
like 20 years, and then the
Wow.
post
That's
office.
right, because the parking lot behind it. Yeah.
Yes. And it was in ruin, basically. And then it sat vacant for like 2 years before we went into it. It was just a big, open, decrepit space. So after
was-
this, I'll show
it
you
was
pictures.
A disaster.
It was.
We had to bring in all new infrastructure. We had to pull in new power. We had to plumb gas. We needed new plumbing. We had HVAC. Like there wasn't a thing that we didn't have to build out.
The kitchen, we built that kitchen. It was
That-
just a big open space. And
Wow.
so we,
I'm still dealing with the mistakes that I made in the design with plumbing and
Yeah.
well, it's funny to say that
it's too small.
it is
I
too
mean, we've
small.
outgrown it, and that's the biggest thing that we've run out of. We keep
It's-
running out of
Yeah,
is
it's
space.
space. I mean, we've had to reverse engineer a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because
Yeah.
that wasn't the plan from day one.
No, I
We-
mean, we had a kitchen because we were obviously all of the processing that we were doing just
Okay.
of the protein.
Yeah.
So that was part of the plan, like the hood.
And the prepared meals and things to go.
Sure,
so
sure.
I
Yeah.
had basic equipment, but we've added. Oh man, I think we've added 8 or 9 pieces of not inexpensive equipment to facilitate it. And the mentor we were talking about earlier, he flippantly one day said that we could do X number of sales through here, and then he came back this week and he was like, I can't believe that you're actually doing those numbers. And we have an 8-foot hood that everything fits under, which
Yeah.
to the non-kitchen person is not enough room. We have
Yeah.
5 people now cooking
Wow.
on every shift because the volume is there now.
Mhm.
So reverse engineering is
Yeah, we're constantly
Yeah.
doing that. So yeah, we
can't
did.
say enough about good plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need good plumbing.
Yes.
Yes. We did
It's
everything
essential.
ourselves. We did everything ourselves.
All the work you did yourselves, like building out, or
front? No, because I mean, you had to
need
have
some,
that,
right. Yeah.
permitted. But as far as like designing and, I mean, we didn't know
That's awesome.
what we didn't know.
Yeah.
It's
And we thought we knew more than we did.
yeah, that's for sure.
yeah,
And I think that's the hardest lesson is, I said it earlier, we'll evolve because we know we don't have all the answers. And we don't, what is the right answer today may not be in 6 months,
yeah,
and so it just kind of depends on, as the business flows, we've kind of flowed with it. So kind of ebbing and flowing like the tides.
Mhm.
And we fix something and then that is fixed, works for a while, and then it doesn't, and we have to change again.
I think the other point to that really is just that, and we're so thankful for it, but like we have just, our sales just are like this. Like it's just it just continues
Upward
to.
trajectory for those that can't see Mary Kate's arm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a hand talker and this is a
Yeah.
podcast. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, y'all.
That's why John's here.
Okay.
But it's
But we've been so damn busy, and
Yeah.
like it's the way that my analogy is kind of like putting a rope under tension and finding the weak spots, and that's just what this has been. I mean, as it just
that
continues.
rope is tense.
It is tense. We are busy, and it's like, oh, okay. We need more servers, and we need a hostess, and we
We
need
were just
runners.
measuring this morning for a new wine cooler
Yeah.
because we need more wine storage for
Yeah.
the servers.
Yeah.
You know, we're always looking, you know, for me and it's really a seafood manufacturing background. And so the way that I look at things is the same way that I would look at one of the processing facilities, right?
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, the lean manufacturing. It's the Six Sigma. How can we do better a little bit every day, a little bit better every day? And that's really what we've done with the tides is every day we look at it and say, how can we be a little bit better? What can we do? What's working? What's not working? What needs celebrating? What needs fixing? And I think that's really
The
done a
other
lot
thing
for
that's
us.
we're celebrating is that we're finally at a point where we can work on the business and not in the business.
Mm.
Our
And it's lunchtime and I'm not cooking.
yeah, we're not flipping a grouper. Yeah, so
That was me for a solid 2 years. And actually in the first 8 months, we didn't pay ourselves. We didn't
Yeah.
pay ourselves a dime. And we have put every last penny that we have into this to
Back
make it
into
work.
it. Yeah.
And so we're 8 months in and we're kind of looking at each other and like, so how are we gonna pay the mortgage this month?
Yeah.
hey, you're gonna need to go get a job. I was like, we also need to take the kids to the dentist.
Oh, yeah.
There's that. So yeah,
So
he-
I went and got a job. And so I
8
was
months in.
8 months in. And so I went and got a job selling meat and seafood for
A
a
company.
large distributor.
Yeah.
One of the largest for all
so he did that during the day. His
So no restaurant at this point. At 8 months in, you don't have
No,
a
no,
restaurant?
we
Oh.
were still doing counter service. We were doing
So,
lunch and
like-
dinner
Okay.
So I cooked
for the first
Okay.
month.
for the first month because it almost killed me. Like I'm a front of the house girl. Like back of the house is not my jam. It's a very in the restaurant business. It's very distinct. There's front of the house people and back of the house people.
Yeah.
I mean, it broke me because I was like, "What do you mean I have to make pimento cheese? I just made it yesterday." And so he would be gone Monday through Friday. I mean, one of his territories was Sarasota, and he would go.
I handled Sarasota and south of the bridge. So not even like I had a couple of Clearwater accounts, but yeah,
He would
I was
go
in
and do
Sarasota
that.
3 days a week.
I would
Jeez.
die in the kitchen, and then about 4 o'clock, he'd come to the store. We'd tag, and
You'd
then
go
I
pick up kids,
and then I'd go pick up kids and like do the mom thing.
Yeah.
and
and then I would cook dinner and close,
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
and then and I literally worked 7 days a week for 2 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
But glad to do it.
Yeah. Where does the mindset come from of like having the flexibility to like change your business, change your plan or whatever to what the customer like really wants? Because some people can get caught up in like, you know, the ego thing, like I'm creating this is like what I want to do.
I
So,
think
like,
it
you guys
comes
are-
down
There's two things. One is
Okay.
Greg. So Greg Seymour came over. He was the owner
Pizzeria Gregario. Do you
Pizzeria
remember him?
Gregario.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little pizzeria. So he came
Bring
in
him
before
back.
we opened. He's a super cool guy. He is all about his craft. And
Yeah.
his craft is
He's
in the dough.
truly a
And
Yeah.
I mean, he
craftsman.
is a craftsman.
That's cool.
Oh
yeah.
So
my gosh.
it was really cool to be able to have, I mean, he's cooked in
They're
some
fun.
really great places.
Side note, he built a wood fire oven over at Sweetwater Organic Farm. And I think like on the weekends during
He's in-
season, he's in Maine right now,
Yeah.
but like, you know, in October, in
He'll
Florida
come
season,
back or whatever.
Yeah.
he will do pizzas there. So
Okay.
just a little insider tip for
Okay.
you.
There you go.
But he said to, what did he say?
He said, don't die by your ethos.
He's like, remember, it's a business.
Yeah.
So that was
So
it.
that-
And then what's your other,
Um,
did I just make you forget?
yeah, he did.
I'm sorry.
Dang it.
Dang.
Well, no, the other thing is that we have mortgaged everything. We
Yeah.
have put everything on the line.
So it's like this has to work.
It has to work. Our
yeah.
house is on the line.
Right,
We've
right.
literally we've cashed in all our chips.
Yeah.
We could not be more all in.
From a mindset though, it doesn't, I don't know. I think the way to put it, it's yes, we're all in, but we believe in it.
Yeah.
We believe in it so much that I think that just deep rooted passion is, I'm grateful for it because it kind of takes the ego out of it a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, that kind of sucks. That didn't work. Okay, how can we do this differently? And I genuinely believe that it's passion driven. I mean, we're still married. We work together
Yeah.
every single day.
How's that?
Well, here's the other piece is that I asked her brother to move down here and help us. And so I work with my wife and my brother-in-law.
I work with my brother and my husband.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
And so
Crazy.
there are definitely some heated conversations in the walk-in cooler
Yeah.
that's insulated so nobody can hear us
Yeah.
yelling at each other.
We
but
just, I don't know. We just
get
don't,
it done.
we just believe in what we're doing. Like we just really believe in what we're
We
doing.
have really high standards. We have really high expectations of the product that we're trying to put out. And so we just expect people to work to those standards. And
it took a while, but I genuinely believe that people like they see it now. I'm really proud of like we've become kind of a part of our local food system. And that just means everything. I think within and around Tampa Bay, we've established ourselves as kind of like a premier go-to place
Yeah.
for
for seafood, if
our
nothing else.
seafood if for nothing else, right? But like quality, like and
Yeah.
we
That's the thing.
there's an authenticity to it as well. Like we're not going to that
And if we're going to be known for anything, we want to be known for quality.
yeah, for sure.
You know, and so that's the thing that drives us more than anything is it's not about being the best, but it's about having the best quality and
Yeah.
really being able to stand behind that.
Yeah.
So one question I wanted to ask you guys is like what goes into creating or building a great restaurant? Like what makes you guys so great at what you do? Or what, what's the difference between like a great one versus like your average restaurant?
I definitely, so back to the quality and
Yeah.
kind of an unwavering commitment to quality. We're just like, if it's not like the highest quality, we're just not going to have it. Like
Mhm.
we'll just 86 it.
There's
which
a
is
I've been
frustrating.
fired from a couple of suppliers because they won't sell to us anymore because
He's such a pain in the ass.
because I won't take if it's not good enough, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the price is at that
Right.
point. You know, people will say, "Well, keep the tuna if I make it $10 a pound," and it's like, "Well, no, that doesn't."
Yeah. It
Doesn't solve the
changes my
problem.
business,
Right.
right?
It's
Yeah.
it's still not great tuna.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
so
quality, but then also, we're Southerners, like we talked
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
and so hospitality, that's something that's really, really important to us.
Yeah.
Relationships. So the relationships that we have with these vendors, that also, we kind of want to be like the middleman between our guests and these vendors. It's like, oh, let me tell you about Sarah from St. Pete Ferments
Mhm.
or John Roberts from Oliver Heritage Farm.
or Josh with Queen and Colin.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think it's being able to tell these people's story. We want people to enjoy their experience.
But I think
And-
but I think the other part of it is the logistics of it all. And that's where we do want to have, I couldn't help it. We do want to have more than one location. So, but that's
This whole time.
but
I
it,
know,
but,
he's-
but
You
in
let me
order
ask
to
I
you.
know,
do
he's
that,
like-
but in order to do that, but even before we can think about that, there has to be a process.
Yeah.
And there has to be a way to produce that quality time in and time out.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if it's Blaze or Joe or Chris or whoever is making that dish. It needs to be done the same way every single time.
Yeah,
Is that the hardest part? Like to be able to do
Yes.
that?
And that's
Oh my
the-
gosh,
and you can-
consistency.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing is that
Good-
quality is
good point.
great, but you have to have consistent quality.
Yeah.
And so I am fine if we run out of something because we couldn't get the quality or because we just oversold it, whatever the reason. You can't always have the best quality and always be in stock on everything.
Right.
And so that's something that we're willing to do is run out of things. But we've recently hired a consultant to help us put processes to everything
Yeah.
and to document everything so that when we hire somebody in Safety Harbor or Timbuktu, wherever we are, here's a book.
Yeah.
This is the Tides Way. And so that's really what we're focusing on right now, is really dialing in those processes so that when and if the time comes, we're ready with that information so that we
Yeah.
can staff and
Yes,
and
my
move forward
sweet
accordingly.
darling Amy, she will always tell you that it is like the Tides is consistently delicious. Just
Yeah.
every
And
time.
that's the biggest compliment that we can get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Consistency to me is, we both worked for Houston's in Atlanta, and that was one thing that we did there every day. We tasted everything on the menu.
Okay.
And if
And that was
the
a
if
really
the
long
and I can
time
remember
ago.
it too, Mr. John, these green, the romaine's a little too green. It needs to be a little lighter. You need to put, so, and that was kind of where we first had that interaction
I
with,
still fold towels the way
yeah,
that
but
Yeah.
they have
it's
spec for it. I still
it's
do that.
driving that consistency home,
Yeah.
and making sure that it's the same every single day.
Yeah.
Do you get the passion coming from him?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
don't- I
Both of
mean,
you. Like I love it.
It's awesome. It does. You're emanating.
And you guys are like you're having fun doing it. Like that's the
Yeah.
difference
Well,
too.
that's the thing. I get mad when she has to go pick up the kids, because I'm like, well, we've got work to do, and I want to keep working with you.
And I'm like, I gotta go.
but she's like, I gotta go. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't take any more of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like, my brother-in-law, I give him probably the hardest time of anybody in
Oh
the
my
business,
gosh,
in the building, and he's the easiest target. But I don't know what I'd do without him.
Yeah, right.
And yeah,
it's cool.
It's cool. I got my oldest kid working for us now,
Cool.
which is cool. So yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, we love it. We love
little
it.
family business in Safety
Yeah.
Harbor.
We started getting some like neat opportunities too. So I'm going to toot your horn for you. Toot, toot. So we've been invited to participate in like cooking competitions.
Yeah.
And so just recently, we participated in the Tampa Bay Food and Wine Festival.
Wine and Food Festival.
Tampa Bay Wine and Food Festival. And John competed in Battle Seafood. So it was like the chef on stage.
There was like
Nice.
10 chef showdowns, and there was different categories.
It was like Battle
Truffle,
Seafood,
truffle,
pasta.
taco,
Okay.
Yeah,
Pasta.
Chef Robert Irvine
Okay.
from the Food Network,
from the Food Network was
Okay.
the MC, and John won.
Battle
Nice.
Seafood.
Yeah, Battle Seafood was super cool. Like we've gotten to do like
Grouper
fun stuff.
Romesco dish.
Yeah.
And now it's on
Cool.
the menu.
Yeah, it's a great collaboration between our chef de cuisine Einar and I.
Yeah.
And
Einar was chosen as one of 4 chefs. John was talking about that earlier in this Epic Chef contest.
Showdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Feeding Tampa Bay.
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's like, and the thing of it is, it's like Predolina. It's
Oxford
Einar.
Exchange, Predolina, and then Rooster in the Till, I believe.
So it's like these 3
Wow. Yeah,
monster
yeah.
restaurants in town,
Yeah.
and somehow we
The
got
tots.
tapped to do this too.
Right.
So I asked Mary Kate today. I was like, "Do you think there were only 4 applicants?"
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
Is that how we got it?
I know, but I love it because I'm like, we're like the little seafood market that
Yeah.
could, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like hanging out with the big dogs. you
That's
know?
right. Yeah. So are you like your chef skills? Like you trained? Like did you go to school for that? Like where did that come
So I did. So I went to Loyola in New Orleans for 2 years when I graduated high school, and I was politely asked to reevaluate my priorities, and so I did. And that's when I started cooking. They kicked me out because my grades were terrible.
from? Yeah.
And so I cooked for about 3 years in and around New Orleans, and then I decided that if I was going to do this, that I needed to take it seriously. And so I went to Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island and froze my butt off for 3 years and got an associate's degree in culinary arts, and then moved back south. And I cooked for about 15 years.
Mhm.
And then when we got together, it was time to get out of the kitchen, and I was just tired of nights, weekends,
Oh, yeah.
holidays,
Yeah.
Right.
and so I started selling fish, and I did that for about 2 years, was promoted, and ran a distribution company in Birmingham for that big seafood company.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then when we moved down here, and then it was one of those things where I was just kind of getting burnt out on the corporate world and wanted to get back into cooking.
Yeah.
And that's when Mary Kate came up with the idea is, well, it's not a restaurant, but it's a market. It's got prepared foods. There's a few different places that we've been to that have had this type of model or a similar model. And so that's where it really came from.
Yeah. I like to say that John is probably the most qualified to run a business like this because he has a culinary background. Then he also has like the seafood
Yeah.
distribution.
It's like a perfect
I'm like,
combo.
he's kind of like the authority. Like I
Yeah.
had a friend post about like aquaculture and, on his like Facebook page or whatever. And I was like, you know who knows more than most about this? I was like, John Walker. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
She's my biggest fan too. So.
I am. It's true.
Um,
He may have more questions.
okay, I'll stop talking.
Yeah.
No, I think we're gonna do like round 2, like another podcast, like in the future or
I'd
something.
love to.
So
We'd love to. We'd
yeah,
love
this has
to.
been fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys jumping on here to do this and spend some time with me. So
Thank you for
Absolutely.
giving
Yeah.
us the opportunity.
Yeah,
to
we
go-
could talk
Well,
all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clearly we could.
yeah, we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
Maybe at the restaurant the next time or
There
something.
you
Deal.
go. And
Yeah.
you get to
Deal.
eat.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deal.
I think my wife's down there today, so I'm like,
Seriously?
yeah.
Oh, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
We've got some great Father's Day steaks this weekend.
Oh my God,
Ooh.
tomahawks came in today.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. They're
Okay.
huge. Look like a
Dry
stegosaurus bone. It's crazy.
Right. Cool. Thank you guys.
Of course.
you.
Of course. This is a lot of fun.